Let me put my mask on first. Make sure Mr. Einstein doesn't get COVID. We won't like that, right? Welcome back to Einstein Education, episode 3. We're going to be taking a look at a nice topic about overtraining, or are we not stimulating enough, right? So, I mean, the big concept, behind this education is making an impact into our lives, making improvements in one way or another. So this is relatable to multiple areas of life. I mean, we're not just talking about in the gym, but we can talk about this in anything. I mean, whether you're just learning about something, or you're doing it too much or not enough in order to retain information, or let's say we're in the gym and we're trying to make differences, or we're doing too much or too little. And how do we kind of find the balance between both, right? Well, so, when we think about overtraining, let's look at that one. All right, well, some of the biggest things about that is, too much activity. Too much activity. Okay. Another one, we can look at too much activity, the impacts, and the results from that, right, and how to balance. So when you kind of think about those principles, the way that we look at overtraining with too much activity is maybe in the sense of too many calories. Maybe we're burning too many calories, right? Too much activity, so not enough rest. Right? Not enough rest / recovery, right? And then also the principle of overstimulus. So when we're training and we're doing too much, those are the people that are saying 7 days a week, which, don't get me wrong, if you're an advanced lifter into anything, your body adapts and makes adaptations so that you may be able to train 7 days a week, or maybe twice a day, right? Depending on where your body's at, it might be able to handle that amount of stimulus, right? The stimulus is the change. So when we're in the gym, stimulus equals change, and vice versa. So the more the stimulus goes up, the more the change goes up. The more the stimulus goes down, the less change that we make, right? So that makes sense. So if you can handle a higher amount of stimulus without overtraining, well then it depends on your experience. So the other one's not enough rest or recovery. So meaning, if activity is up, that's going to activity provides a stimulus, right, which provides that change. All right, so if activity's up, stimulus is up, you would think that most of the time change is up, right? As activity's down, stimulus is down. This one's guaranteed. If your activity's down, stimulus is down, you're not going to change. But with activity, there's a fine line between, okay, the more you do, the more you're going to stimulate your body a certain way, or maybe your brain if you're educating yourself on a subject, the more it's going to change, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to know now, right? That's true. But if you provide too much of this, well then all of a sudden you're now overtraining and change actually goes down, or it slows down, like it's not as much, right? So we want to optimize our time, let's use the gym as an example, to provide the right amount of activity, the right amount of stimulus to get the perfect changes that we want. We want to do enough, but we don't want to do too much, because then if you do too much, change starts to slow down, right? And the other one's burning too many calories. So too much activity, if you're burning too many calories equal fuel, right? So when we look at this, we think about calories and fuel. You need this in order to provide this. So one of the biggest things that, I'll come back to that, one of the biggest principles that I always talk about is this. Training is the stimulus. right? Nutrition equals the fuel to the stimulus. And then sleep is the change that makes these two happen. So when we look at training, is the stimulus for our body to do something. Nutrition is the fuel to that stimulus, and sleep is where the change happens. Okay. So if we're into that principle now, we understand a little bit more of that impact of too much activity. So now, we look at, well, impacts. And again, it's kind of into that sense of, well, if we're doing too much activity, which is going to provide a lot of stimulus, which for change, it's either going to go up, down, or kind of stagnant. It might not change at all. So we need to understand, how do we understand to that level, right? So into that case then, let's look at not enough, and then we'll kind of provide solutions, right? Because ultimately, you don't want to spend time, money, or energy in the gym if you're not providing the right amount of activity, stimulus, and change that you want to get results, right? So let's look at the other option. Not enough. Not enough. All right. So if it's not enough, well, how do we know that? Well, we look at frequency, we look at body type, we look at time, right? There are a number of examples, but let's just cover 3 of them, right? There are a number of examples of how maybe you're not providing enough stimulus. Well, for the most part, frequency. So the more frequent you do something, the more that's going to equal positive change, right? The less frequent is going to equal negative change. So if you go into the gym 3 days a week versus a guy that goes 6 days, or a woman that goes 6 days, who do you think's probably going to see some kind of change, just some kind of change more? The 3 days or 6 days? If I, work out upper, lower, and upper twice a week versus just upper, lower, and upper, he's getting twice the frequency. So you're going to know that he's going to have a more positive change versus a person that's negative. So that's a way to understand it. Maybe am I not doing enough? Well, then that leads right into body type. Depending on the kind of body type you are, maybe you're thin. Maybe, you're muscular, right? You got the abs, right? And then maybe, you're fat, right? Or you kind of have this shape. So depending on your body type, male, female, tall, skinny, short, stocky, bone structure, that's going to play an effect on the kind of stimulus or even the frequency that you need in order to provide the right amount of change that you want. Right, so understanding more about your own body type will give you important information to know how much should I be doing. We look at like volume, frequency, and then the last one obviously is time. So the amount of time that you actually spend under a stimulus. So, think about it like this, which we equate to intensity. Time equals intensity. All right, so think about this. If I do 3 sets of 8, and it takes me 5 seconds per rep, that's 40 seconds of tension. Versus if I do 4 sets of 10, but it takes me, let's put here 5 seconds for each rep, and here it takes me 5 seconds, right, for each rep. Now what I'm doing is 50 seconds of tension per set times 3 sets times 4 sets. So this is 200, this is 120. So now over time that you could see, this time under tension is more intense on your body, so therefore it's going to provide a different stimulus just from this small change. From doing 3 sets of 8 over 4 sets of 10. And I mean, if you do that, that's an 80-second difference. 80-second difference. That's just per exercise. And if you do that then over 5 exercises, that's 400 seconds per, 400 seconds per workout, times 5 days a week, times 4 weeks, times 3 months. Do the math there. You can kind of see. I'll give you a cookie if you can do that math. I don't know if I can do it off the top of my head. So you can see that it's going to be a more positive result there. So knowing those key factors, a little bit frequency, your body type, and time as it equals intensity, is really important to understand that are you doing enough in the gym, right? I mean, if you're not going at all, then you obviously know. But this is a little bit more in-depth of approach to understand those two, right? So let's break that down. One thing that I want to show you here on our Whoop app, you can look at the overview, and it shows you the different breakdown between strain, recovery, and sleep. I mean, those are huge tools to understand, which is why we use those Whoop watches, because it's an amazing tool that shows me those different factors that I just laid out, right, between strain, recovery, and sleep. Remember what this is. This is really training, nutrition, rest, and sleep is change. Right? You'll know that. So then if you look through these other pictures, I break down the strain, it breaks down the strain of what you're doing. It breaks down the recovery of how these processes work here, right? And then it also breaks down your sleep. And then understanding, that's why we provide these in programs with people for an added incentive, because us getting this data on our side and on our end, the scientific end, we're going to be able to then minimize these two topics, which you can see from a monthly analysis of my own performance. You can see that in the past I was overtraining. You saw that graph go up. And then there's another time where I was restorative, not making much change, and then there was a time where I was very optimal. So it kind of looked like this, where the graph was like this. It was overtrained, optimal, and restorative, where it was like this. So, I'm training, intensity, and then all of a sudden I had this wave of overtraining, and then it went back down to here, where what we really want to maintain is optimal, right? We want to be here, because here is where your body's going to be constantly changing, but adapting towards what we want. We're over here, you're overstraining, so this is going to cause injury, fatigue, loss of motivation, less motivation, etc. And restorative, this is going to be kind of almost like lazy, unmotivated, and concepts like that. This is going to be change, results. So that's what we want to do. So why don't we take just a few moments to see some ways that we can improve this and stay into this level, okay? All right. Look at that. Mr. Einstein. Goodness gracious. Wanted to make sure you didn't get COVID. Wear your masks. If Einstein gets sick, the world's doomed. Guys, good to go. Yeah, I hope that part of that video I want to explain, because overtraining and not stimulating your body enough are just really important aspects
to understand, because it's going to maximize your time in whatever you do, whether you're learning a new subject, maybe switching career paths, you're getting into the gym and making a bodily change, for your health, for your image. It's important to know the difference in how you can then balance between the two of overtraining or not enough stimulus, right? We want to stay in optimal, so really, I mean, the single best, a couple of the best things you can do is, knowing your body is, it's going to be nutrition, right? Nutrition is that fuel. So the better you can eat, right, towards the things that you need to have, like your brain needs fats and, and different vitamins in order to function properly, right? Your body needs protein and carbohydrates and fats and calories all together in order to make changes that we want. I mean, you see people that are working out so hard, but they're not eating enough. So then what you're basically doing is you're giving your body all this stimulus to break down and grow, repair, but then you're not providing enough fuel for that process to actually happen. So you just start flatlining, right? Rather than doing this, which is what you want. Or sometimes even you do this. That leads to injury. This leads to results. And this leads to a unhappy customer, because that's what we do. So that's good. That's a topic. Another one's sleep. Is you gotta sleep, right? Because that's where the change actually occurs. Like I talked about, train, nutrition, and sleep. It's like this big trifecta. I mean, it's the biggest, hands down the easiest things to understand is train is the stim, nutrition is the fuel, sleep is where it happens. So, knowing what you're doing in the gym, how frequently, what kinds of exercises, your body type are all very specific things that you need to know. The tempo, the reps, the sets, the rest periods are all going to factor the stimulus. And that stimulus is going to carry over to, okay, how are you eating and how are you fueling your body to make that happen, right? I mean, even if you're just going into a gym and like you just want to stay in shape and be active and fit, well, you still got to have these factors. Like there's no easy ground of, I'm not really trying to do a whole lot, I just want to stay in shape. Well, you still have to eat good. You still have to sleep right. And you still have to train properly in order to maintain that, or else you'll just, what you're kind of slowly doing is, instead of wasting complete money, if you don't know what you're doing, you're just kind of slowly getting rid of it. You're kind of slowly feeding it to the fire rather than throwing it into the fire, right? So, and that's part of what we offer. I mean, we do one-on-one challenges, we do, monthly plans that give you access to the tools on an app. We provide Whoop fitness watches now to the people that are working with us, because then we are taking control of all these different factors to get an individual the absolute best results in the in the right time frame for them, whether it works out for their budget or their time or their schedule. That's what we can offer. So I hope this was just some good valuable information to understand that topic of, am I overtraining? How do I find out? How do I figure out if I am or not? Am I making the best results I can be making in the gym, or am I not doing enough, right? Or am I right in that right zone? So those are the things that we can provide, or you can ask us questions. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be doing this. We're just gonna be posting content. Because we want to have it out there as a resource for people that can watch it anytime or use it, or even for ourselves. And we have 2 other videos already out. Last episode we did Alcohol of Sleep with Einstein, and then we've also did the Science of Motivation. So definitely check out those videos too. And these are 10-15 minute clips that can impact you in a good way. It's worth the time. And stay tuned for some more. We got some exciting things. And we just unlocked something new with Mr. Einstein that you guys are going to be excited to see. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.